There are many players who spend multiple months or even years stuck at the same level of mechanics. It doesn't matter how many tutorials you watch or how many hours you spend in training, your growth has stopped. This isn't a problem you can fix by just playing more. It is a problem that's fixed by changing how you approach the entire concept of improvement. I will show you how to improve your mechanics even when you are hard stuck. There are some players that are able to improve their mechanics naturally without getting stuck or slowing down their progress. The goal is to understand why some players are able to grow naturally and how you can do the exact same thing. The thing that you need to understand is that talent isn't what's stopping you from becoming more mechanical. It's about how you think about mechanics, how you treat failure, and how you approach mastering mechanics. Mechanics should be treated as nothing more than an extension to your pre-existing moveset. Mastery over a mechanic means that you know the exact time and place for when the mechanic should be used in a match, and being able to use the mechanic even when you don't have the ideal setup. Mastery doesn't come from free play, it comes from many hours of using the mechanic in games. With this in mind, there is an extremely important concept that you need to understand. This is the concept of playing for the win versus playing for improvement. The reason why some players are unable to progress their mechanics even after a long time of playing is because they have been playing for the win instead of playing for improvement. Playing for improvement means that you're going into matches and using mechanics that you haven't fully mastered or aren't consistently able to do in games. People who play for improvement are purposely exposing themselves to mechanical failure in hopes that the mechanic will become a consistent part of their moveset. The reason why players end up getting stuck is because they are too afraid to use the mechanics they've learned in training in a ranked environment. Playing for the win is when you use mechanics that you have complete consistency over and avoiding any situations that could lead to failure. Sticking to the mechanics that you're already good at is what most players end up doing, and it's also the reason why they are stuck. Objectively speaking, playing for the win is the smartest thing to do if your only concern is winning the match. But this will limit the growth of your mechanics because you aren't going out of your comfort zone and trying anything that you haven't done before. People naturally learn from failure, but when you're playing for the win, you are preventing any failure from happening entirely. In order to achieve mechanical mastery, you'll need to have the game sense for when you should use the mechanic and how the mechanic is supposed to be done. Spending time in training to get better at doing the mechanic is still very important, but this game sense isn't something that comes from a training pack. It comes from hundreds of failed attempts from trying to use the mechanic in games. Training is for understanding, and playing for improvement is for mastery. Failure is important for learning, but not all failures are the same. Understanding what kind of failure is good for you and what kind of failure should be avoided is necessary when playing for improvement. Understanding what caused the failure and avoiding it entirely is the natural thing to do, but it could also hurt your progression if you limit the wrong kinds of failure. When it comes to getting better at the game, you have to know what kind of failure is good for growth and what kind of failure should be avoided. For example, if you go for a flip reset in a game when you're only able to do it consistently in training, that is an acceptable failure because you'll grow each time you attempt it in game. If you wasted all your boosts on a bad challenge that caused you to overcommit, that is not a good failure because it'll never be a smart thing to do and you won't learn anything from doing it again. It would be best to avoid that situation entirely. There are a lot of people who fail to understand this and end up treating all failures the same way. Consistent failure leads to growth, and limiting your good failures will stop you from progressing. You should try to expose yourself to failure that leads to growth and limit the failure that leads to nothing. You have to know what to take away from each lesson, so you don't end up learning the wrong one and end up putting yourself into a deeper hole. Now that you understand how to deal with failure, it is now time to understand how you're supposed to play for improvement. At the very beginning, I said that the goal was to understand how to improve naturally over time, and your approach to playing for improvement has to account for this. When you're playing for improvement, you need to simulate natural mechanical progression. The most important thing is understanding what mechanics you should be using when you're trying to play for improvement. You need to make sure the mechanic you want to introduce is the appropriate next step above what you can already do in ranked. Any mechanic that you're spending time to master should be able to complement your existing mechanics. It doesn't make sense to try to bring mechanics into games when they are too far beyond your reach. That isn't natural progression, that is rushed progression. You shouldn't be learning how to do resets if you don't know how to air dribble. You shouldn't be learning how to air dribble if you don't know how to aerial. You have to look at what mechanics should be next and introduce them in order. Make sure you have spent time doing the mechanic in training before bringing it into your games. Training builds muscle memory, and playing for improvement builds mastery. When you're playing for improvement, you might believe that you should just spam the mechanic as much as you can, but that is not what you're supposed to do at all. You have to remember, a mechanic should be treated as nothing more than an extension to your moveset. You should try your best to play smart while naturally exposing yourself to situations that allow the mechanic to be used. Exposing yourself to these new situations will build the game sense required to use it properly in ranked, and make you better at using the mechanic itself. You need to use the mechanic with maturity and use it when you believe it's in the right place. When you are new to playing for improvement, it can be difficult to expose yourself to new situations if your current playstyle is based around avoiding those kinds of scenarios. This normally happens to people who are trying to introduce aerial mechanics when their playstyle is extremely grounded. This is a huge mental block that can completely limit your exposure to mechanical failure. The best way to fix this is to study your own gameplay and compare it to pro gameplay. Understanding when pros use aerial mechanics in their matches will give you a better idea of what situations you should be attempting to do similar things. It is easy to feel lost when you're trying to improve your mechanics after years of stagnation. Some might even feel that talent is the only reason why they're stuck. Consistently exposing yourself to mechanical failure is the thing that will get you out of this. Only after thousands of hours was I able to realize why I was stuck and why others were able to improve their mechanics so much faster. You don't need to waste all those years of frustration like I did, because the answer is now right in front of you. Anyways, thanks for watching, and don't get tilted.